Welcome to, thank you. Welcome to the March 30th Sexton Mountain NAC meeting. And before we get started, just because of Oregon public meeting laws, this is going to be recorded as you noted, and that the recording will be made available to you online. So with that, I want to get started because we do have a very full agenda this evening. And I do not see those people who are going to be later in the presentations of their reports. THPRD, Beaverton Police. I don't know if TVF&R is coming tonight. So I am just going to get started by introducing our first speaker, and that is Mayor Lacey Beaty. I'm thrilled that you are here, and that I hope that everybody saw the Beaverton Voices, the State of the City presentation. It was phenomenal. I loved how you scooted around. It was great to see, and in fact, the city manager today had mentioned how fun and entertaining it was. I found it to be very clever and entertaining. And as you visited the downtown areas and you interviewed the counselors and talked about the accomplishments and the goals of the city, my challenge to you next year is that you bring it down to South Beaverton or South Cooper Mountain or Vos or West Slope or yours and my NAC. So with that, welcome Mayor Beaty.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I have a fantastic team. My communication director, Jen, who used to work in the neighborhood office, is now my communication director, wrote the script and got it to come together. We know that, last year, the first State of the City was about like 12 days after I was sworn in when I filmed it. And so having to really kind of report, even though I was part of the council, it felt like giving somebody else's address. And we were really in distress when I gave last year's State of the City. Vaccines were not available yet. It was really challenging. We were in and out of like really reduced lockdown and really just a hurting community when I was sworn into office in 2021. And so being able to deliver it this year felt really triumphant in a lot of ways. We've overcome a lot, but also it was just last year that people started getting vaccines and when they were coming in. And so I wanted to make sure that we told the story about overcoming and really what our community as a whole has been through in a year, but also not shy away from the topics that I hear about every single day. I hear a lot about our houseless community. I hear a lot about crime. I hear a lot about just some of the problems that we're facing that were really exacerbated during COVID. And I feel like my job a lot of times is really just talking to people about roles and responsibility of the government and who can do what work. And I want to remind people too, like when I was sworn in, the community voted for a new charter, taking away a lot of power from the mayor's office. So my ability to direct staff is gone, to really intervene on topics that I would want to manage differently. The voters decided to empower that into a non-elected official. Now, I think we have a really great city manager, and we really have kind of the best of both worlds here. But as we kind of work through this process of what it looks like, it's not an elected official telling staff what to do, it's somebody else. And so my job really is to stand in the middle, bring everyone to the table and have hard conversations, but also recognizing that it takes a lot of different forms of government to make things work in our community. I want to talk a little bit that doesn't impact this neighborhood as great. And if you don't know, Sexton Mountain NAC is my new NAC. I bought a house from one of the past NAC chairs that I don't think she was the NAC chair in the early 2000s. So I have a lot of responsibility in coming into the neighborhood. I did live in Central Beaverton before that. So we love living near the power line trail. We love, just being in this different part of Beaverton that we have never lived in before. But, issues around homelessness in our community are complex. There's federal law, the Boise v. Martin case that was settled by the Supreme Court that communities cannot kick people off of right-of-way unless there are shelter beds. And I know people want us to arrest people and move them on, but like we actually cannot do that. So I went to work with our federal government this year and our state level government and raised over $4 million to build a homeless shelter. We went from nothing to like money to buy a homeless shelter. The city council is working on siting it right now, bringing those resources in, because the police in our community cannot just arrest people for being homeless. We have to have a place for them to go. That is not Mayor Beatty's stance. That is the Supreme Court directing communities like ours to do this work. But we didn't have the money in our budget. So I had to go and raise that money. And we did it in about 6 months, which is really remarkable. The council moved through changing the policy to allow shelters in about 3 months. We've been touring shelters. We're trying to understand how Beaverton's way is going to be a little bit different. I'm currently working with our federal delegation right now on bringing in trying to raise money for a systems navigator. So that way, when we get people into sheltering, we have somebody in there that's going to help them connect to other resources. And when I met with our bike police officers, which we have a gang of about 6 of them, they deal specifically in our houseless community, and they are really good. They know everyone's name. They know everyone's story. They know everyone's situation. And when we met with them and said, what can I do to bring things that you can do better? What makes your job better? And this was a huge need. They said, Mayor, we know everyone. When we get them into the shelter, the severe weather shelter that exists now, there's no one on the other end saying, here's how you apply for food stamps. Here's how you do this. Here's how potentially you get to housing. And so we went to work really quickly asking our federal government to help fund a project to do just that. We got about another almost $1 million for mental health court. We're trying to work through what that process looks like now. It's really great. We have a judge that sat on the psychiatric review board prior to being a municipal judge, understands mental health issues like through and through. And so we're going to be able to really sideline people out of our criminal justice system into a wraparound mental health court system, just like we do for alcohol. So we have some good things going. The Metro bond passed, which is putting money in our community to deal with homelessness in a preventative manner, which has never existed. Millions and millions of dollars, the voters approved this bond. And so that's going to be 6 to 9 months till the money really starts flowing as they're working programmatically to grit that money into our community. And so we have a lot of things happening at one time. And I know sometimes the perception is, we don't care and we're not doing anything about homelessness. But I want to tell you, we are working. This is like our #1 issue that we're dealing with right now in a humane way, trying to bring in resources to our own community. And really, COVID exacerbated what people are experiencing in our community here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that with you guys tonight. And so you could be truth tellers and dispelling myths that we're not doing anything. We actually are doing a lot more than the communities around us, because I get calls from mayors all the time being like, how are you handling this? What are you doing? I understand my mom still lives in central Beaverton. It's distressing, some of the situation that's happening, but we are working within the confines of the law to deliver as many resources as fast as possible. I hear a little bit about crime, which is multi-trenched issue. Our courts system in Washington County, because of COVID, has reduced services. The jail has reduced people in it. So even if our police officers arrest somebody, the county jail is not accepting them. And so it's not sometimes what I think people want issues to be black and white, and they want us to just say, this is how we're doing it. But it's not that simple. COVID has really broke a lot of our systems and highlighted how challenging it is to actually operate within this system. So I want you to know I hear it. I'm working on it. We're doing everything as fast as possible. Email my office, call me if there's things that are happening in your neighborhood that I need to pay attention to, particularly this one. It's my neighborhood. Let me know what's up and how things are operating. I would say the state of our city is really good. We've had a really great year. We do have, 4 elections happening. We'll be ushering in 3 brand new city councilors. So we've been in a lot of change. New mayor, new city manager, new form of government, 2 new city councilors. Now we're adding 3 more. I'm going to be the longest serving elected official once Mark Sansucci's term is up this year. So I think we're in for a little bit more chaos, if I'm just being honest and reading the tea leaves. We have some great people coming in to join our team, but it's going to take them a while to learn how to be an elected official, to learn how to advocate for our community, because to make anything happen in our community, it takes compromise, it takes votes, it brings people to the table. And despite my millennial heart, it takes a lot longer than I ever want it to. And so that's kind of what I'm here. Those are the top issues that I'm hearing when I'm going from NAC to NAC to NAC. I do know you have a full agenda, so I want to give you a couple minutes to ask me any questions, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Any questions for Mayor Beaty? I have to say that I was, I think it was Allison Tivnon, Councillor Tivnon, who mentioned about the safe parking program and about, that was what, 2019 as a pilot?
It's
And
something we pushed, yeah.
And that there were 37 people who, they went into permanent housing out of that program?
Yep.
Which is quite remarkable. Programs like this, just amazing.
And most of the people that use our safe program, park program, unfortunately, are seniors.
Yeah.
And it's in a way, it gives them a safe place to park. It gives them a safe place and access to restrooms. It gives them access to resources. They enter into an agreement when they come into it, and we help and bring resources to them. It's really a phenomenal program. We don't publicly talk about the sites very often, but I'll tell you, since we don't get complained about them, people are respectful. They do them. They're often hosted by churches, but also governments host them in a really unique partnership that we have with some of our local governments, including our own. Also, I know there's a lot of chatter about our houseless community and the bike shelter. I know everyone thinks it's the same people. It's not. We have moved quite a bit of people into permanent treatment or into permanent housing out of that shelter this year. It's just unfortunate with the weather we have. It becomes a very popular site to get out of the rain. But we're working vigorously with our police department and our public works on safety and sanitation downtown. And so there are some good things happening. Man, this is going to be the easiest NAC I come to. No one's yelling yet. No one. Okay, there we go. All right, James.
I just lost my video. Yeah, glad to finally get to meet you a little bit. What is it looking forward about Beaverton that invigorates you? What is the positive things looking forward that makes you want to get up and go to work every day and fight for the city and the positive outlook?
That's a great question, because I actually think my job is the chief storyteller for the city, and I often am out talking to our community about really awesome things that are happening. What I'm really excited about that we're doing this year is the creation of a nonprofit incubator that we were able to get federal funding for, state level funding, and kind of braiding funding sources to come together. One of the things that happened during COVID, when all of the money started coming to cities like ours, we said, oh my gosh, how are we going to get this money out the door to people? We don't have the connections with everybody, and we don't do this kind of work, right? We can't start a new business line that we have no staff or people to do. Places like Portland have a lot of what we call CBOs, community-based organizations, that really help and foster the community and fill the gaps into areas where government doesn't do. I worked at Virginia Garcia, which is considered a community-based organization, for a long time while I was an elected official and prior to being the mayor. They serve low-income community. They provide a lot of healthcare needs and services to a full range of people. We don't have a lot of those here, and that was really highlighted during the pandemic. So I went and pitched an idea to Congresswoman Bonamici and said, hey, I have this idea. Can we bring some money together to start a nonprofit incubator to really do a grow your own? Because if we go and partner with nonprofits that aren't based in Beaverton, what one community, what a Hispanic community in Forest Grove needs versus what one in Beaverton needs probably looks a little bit different. So we're working with Portland State right now that's kind of looking at it. We already do a little bit of this work. We have a technology incubator, so we've already kind of started doing it. And so I know that's wonky and kind of like one very specific thing, but we're going to be able to take one-time money given to us and create a lasting program that is going to address some of the structural issues that exist. And I think that's just rad.
Other questions? I'm really, I was really struck by your comment about going from a survival mode to a thriving mode. And so all of the things that you have brought to the table in your state of you've just hit the surface of what you presented. There's so much
Yeah.
more that is going on in the city that people need to know, all the way from how the charter affects, change in the way government is run these days. And you kind of alluded to that a little bit. And I don't know if people want to know more about that piece of it.
Well, yeah, and Franziska can drop the link to the state of the city in the chat. She's always phenomenal at doing that on the back end. But I just, I would say like the charter is normal for Oregon, but different for us. People are used to, accustomed to calling the mayor and saying, I need X, Y, or Z done. And we really broke apart those power structures. So our city manager is managing people in the building, managing our facilities with the direction of council. So getting 7 elected officials used to directing a city manager has actually been relatively challenging, not because, and we have really amazing city councilors. Everyone I serve with brings phenomenal energy to the work, different ideas, different perspectives, and different backgrounds, but we were not used to voting on every single thing and giving the city manager direction, because that was the previous mayor's job, and the previous mayors before that's job would just direct staff to do things. So we've had to build in this new muscle memory of we can't be vague. We can't say, I kind of want this to happen, because she comes on and goes, I need to see 4 heads nod. I need 4 yeses that this is the direction we're going to go. And that is challenging. If anyone watched us talk about, and I'm hesitant to say this naughty word in this NAC meeting, but if you watched us talk about fireworks last year, we were a little bit not refined. We were early in our council days. We were not used to giving direction. And when you went to next door, the dumpster fire of local government, you could see how everyone was confused on who said what actually was being voted on. And so as the mayor, I've really been trying to move our council in a direction of, we got to vote, we got to direct every time, and even the little things. And the community deserves to know what elected officials are voting for what, for accountability reasons, for transparency reasons. And, when you guys all start sending us thank you cards for all the amazing work we're doing, I want them directed to the right people. We get a fair amount of hate mail, so there's that piece about it too. No one comes and says, what a fantastic job you're doing. They're usually upset. And I get that piece. So the new city manager is kind of, new to Oregon and kind of learning our local politics. And I'm from Southern California, and I always describe Oregonians new people that they're almost Canadian-like. They're very friendly and very happy, but very passive aggressive in their delivery. And so they're unused to directness sometimes. And so that's one of the things that we're filtering through, is that we all try to be really nice and we maybe never get to the direct kind of question. So that's how the charter is kind of operating right now. And it's not as simple as me telling someone to go do something else. I got to bring 4 people along with me in the conversation, which trying to convince 4 other people to move is challenging. Any of you guys know your family, how that operates? You got a bunch of kids, you're trying to get everyone to agree to something. It's not that simple.
Yeah, follow up on that. I'm curious too, that with the addition of new city councilmen, the growth of that, and I've followed it as long as you've been in, and it seemed like a good number. So we've added more. I don't know. I don't want to put you on a spot. Is more sometimes less? Because now it sort of waters down opinions, and it kind of being a barrier to actually progress. I mean, that's just sort of I can see that in the way I feel. It depends on the quality of the people that come in, understandably, but if it seemed to work, why? What was the objective?
5 is challenging. 5 was easier, but one of the reasons we had to think about it is we had to have odd numbers for things to work, so we didn't have ties. And so the previous mayor didn't vote, so we had 5 councilors and a mayor that didn't vote unless there was a tie-breaking situation. So we were kind of trying to figure out, we'd have to reduce to 5 or level up to 7 was really kind of the situation we were in. But we had, because when I won, my seat was empty, and Councillor Hartmeyer-Prigg took 2 elections. She's running for a 3rd one because it was a mistake in the charter. So the only person I've known that's run 5 races in 18 months is Congresswoman Bonamici, who had a similar situation, that she was appointed in the middle of a term and had to continue to run. So we didn't get her on the council until almost a whole year in. And then she was there for 6 weeks when Councillor Fagan resigned. And so then Councillor Fagan resigned. So we've actually not had 7. We had 7 people for 3 meetings, and that was it. But what is going to be challenging that I keep broadcasting to my colleagues is that 7 people talking on every single topic and coming back in for seconds and thirds, we're going to be in our meetings really late. And so how do we institute a little bit of Robert's Rules of Order and taking the path? Like if you don't have something profound to say, maybe you skip this topic, myself included. And so we're kind of learning through that. But I do think from a community member standpoint, it's a lot more relationship building with other elected officials, because we used to say get to 3, now you have to get to 4. And that getting all of us that way. And we do not have a council full of cookie cutters, which I think is great. We want a little bit of roughness between the councilors because we get better policy that way. We don't want us all thinking and acting and marching in the same direction. I think a lot of people think that's what's happening, but I'll tell you, we actually squabble quite a bit amongst us in a very healthy, positive way, of course.
And I will echo something that Councillor Sansusi had mentioned. You are our ambassador. And that was his description of your role as mayor. And that change in function, what you had been doing, what you're doing now. So, and the amount of work that you do, both on the local and the regional and the federal level, is phenomenal. What you bring back to the Beaverton, to the city of Beaverton, has been wonderful. So much appreciation for that.
I appreciate that. And I do think I see my role as a facilitator of conversations. And so I often am having conversations with every level of government. You know, I do most of our intergovernmental relations, working with Salem, working on bills. We played a large role in a couple bills that passed in Salem this year that we really had to spend a lot of time behind the scenes, working in coalition, going into committees to testify. And thank God, with one of the things I hope stays during COVID is some of these meetings. I know everyone's jonesing to be in person, but I think even as an extrovert, like I was with people all last week in DC, it was challenging to like all of a sudden be in a room full of people and have to be on. And it was like, you know, a little bit overstimulating even for an extrovert. So I hope some of these meetings like this, we can do a mashup. Sometimes we meet in person, sometimes we meet virtual, because it makes it so more people can participate. But it does mean we have to take the longer route sometimes to make sure people are included. And I do think I go and talk a lot about what the city's doing in outside places, and that I'm not managing our staff. I have a lot more freedom to do that. I was very successful in bringing money into our community to deal with some of our issues around homelessness and some of the other issues we're doing that, honestly, managing, we have a really robustly large staff at the city, like over 600 people. That's a lot of work, and it's always something. And now that I don't have to do that piece, I can focus fully on the policy side. But we're still in transition. We had an interim city manager. We had to hire for a new one. Most of my first year in office has been in this operational gray zone of getting people onboarded so I can focus on things that I think this role is designed to do.
Are there other questions? I do see that Franziska has put into the chat the State of the City link, as well as delineation of roles and responsibilities between the mayor, council, and city manager. So thank you for that, Franziska. And by the way, anybody who is maybe new to the technology of this, if you go into the chat at the very end of the meeting, we'll keep the meeting going for a few minutes after the close. You go down to the very end of the chat, there's an ellipsis, 3 dots. You click on that, you can save your chat, and you can, so you don't have to furiously write down all of this stuff. But that's one way that you can capture it and print it out for yourself. Besides going to the website, which is going to be brand spanking new next month. So.
I want to thank you for letting me come tonight and introduce myself to my newer neighbors. Although my husband told me we've been in our house for a year, it does not feel like that. There is still, if I turn my camera around, you'd still see boxes here in our den that I'm working in today, because I don't know, when we were in the Army, we moved 10 times in 10 years. I think we've chronically lived out of boxes. So I think we're in our forever, as long as we'll have it, house for now. So I live on the corner of Flagstone and 155th. So if you're walking by, make sure to pop in and say hello. We're in the yard a lot with our daughter, and we're on the power line trail quite a bit. I'm really accessible. If you want to ask me a question that you maybe didn't think about today, or as soon as I'm gone, you want to ask, reach out to me. We do scheduling time. We have 15-minute intervals. So you can sign up and have a one-on-one meeting with me and talk to me about issues in the community or fun ideas that you have, or just some of you have been around a long time sharing your knowledge and wisdom with me about things that are happening. So don't be afraid to speak up. I always remind our community members, don't let things eat at you for months at a time. Come talk to me. A lot of times, some of the problems that are really frustrating to you, we can solve relatively easy if we just know that it's happening. So I would say, don't assume we know. Give me a courtesy heads up that your issues, you get someone, in your driveway, parking in your driveways, all those kind of potholes, a down power line that doesn't get, access relatively quickly. Like, if I ask any of our departments, they'll give me an answer about things that you're asking about. So don't stew on it. I know if we voted based on what impacted our life the most, your city council, your mayor, and your school board would be at the top of the list, because every time you leave your driveway, you see something, and every single day it gets under your skin, and every day you get more angry about the situation that you see. So call me. I'm your person on the inside.
And Franziska, thank you. You just put Mayor Beatty's webpage and contact information in the chat as well. I just want to thank you so much for coming. I know this is a different night than we usually meet. And I just am thrilled that A, you're our mayor, B, you're in our neighborhood, and C, that you took the time tonight to come and meet with us.
I want to extend a warm welcome to our neighborhood. It's been a year, but it's been a year where nobody knows anybody. So you're a rookie to Sexton Mountain. We're glad to have you. I know you're not supposed to play favorites as mayor, but yeah.
Well, this is my home NAC now. So Central Beaverton used to be my favorite, but this is such a wonderful, active neighborhood. We're so excited to be part of this community, and we have a rising kindergartner that will be at Sexton Mountain next year, and we're walking distance, and she's very excited, and we're very excited. So awesome. Thank you guys for having me. I know you have a full agenda with updates from one of our police officers, with the school district, with John Duggar coming. My last reminder to you guys, it is election season. As a veteran, I implore you to vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but please just vote. It's the most important thing we do, and it's the most American thing we can do. So vote for all those things. I will say, I will not comment on candidates, but you should vote for the school bond. Our kids deserve a clean, safe building that they can access school in, that's seismically upgraded. They need it. Vote for that. Do your research on your candidates, do the American thing, and vote in May. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And feel, well, I was going to say, feel free to stick around, but nope, she's got a lot to do. The next on our agenda is Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, which I do not see anybody representing. And I know that that's going to be coming to us soon, but I guess not yet. And I do see Officer Fleckenstein. Welcome. Good to see you. And you are up next.
Well, thanks for having me. I know it's been a minute since I've been away. I've had a lot of kind of changes going on. My wife gave birth to our first child, so in January. So I've kind of been on FEMLA for the past at least.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been back in the swing of things at work for at least a couple of weeks now. But our son is healthy, and I kind of think of him as like the little Michelin man whenever I'm talking to people. So yeah, so that's what why I've been away. And then I'm also working a different shift. So I work 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. So sometimes I often wasn't able to make it to some of the meetings like I had wanted to. But luckily I had trial all day today and had safety clause, so I was able to at least make it tonight. So yeah, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Officer Fleckenstein. I am been on the police department for almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in August. And I've been with the Sexton Mountain NAC for almost 2 years now, I believe. I don't know, it's been a while. But as far as like some of the updates for you guys, we actually are kind of in a transition period right now. Our chief and our deputy chief are actually going to retire in the coming summer, at least it looks like. And so, and then we also have another captain that's also retiring. So a lot of our kind of administration are retiring, or at least moving on to greener pastures, as I would like to think. And so it'll be interesting to see over the next either few months as far as who's going to be our interim deputy chief and our chief of police department. So I'm sure Mayor Beaty and them were kind of trying to figure all that out as well, on top of all her other obligations and responsibilities right now with everything going on in the city. So So with the coming months and things like that, I'll be sure to give you guys updates as far as how that's going and what things are kind of looking like for the future. We did just hire 6 new recruits, 3 females and 3 males, which is a good thing, just because we're having so many. We've had a lot of people with the laterally and a lot of people retiring out of the police department, but which is pretty common for a lot of police departments all across the nation. And so yeah, so it'll be very, very exciting to see kind of how things shape up, and hopefully we can get a few more applicants. So if you guys know anybody that's interested or has any questions or anything like that, feel free. They can always reach out to me at any time if they need any contact information, or at least any ideas if they would like to work in law enforcement. I'd be happy to talk to them. As far as things kind of going back to business, at least as far as the Washington County Jail is kind of starting to open things back up again for us. And so what that means is we're opening up so a lot more people can start to kind of go to the jail itself in Hillsborough. We're no longer having to write a bunch of citations for a lot of people. And then oftentimes the problem with writing those citations was that people were having warrants issued for their arrest at a later time. So it kind of created more problems than it alleviated at times. And so hopefully kind of moving forward, this will kind of expedite things as far as some of these people's cases that they're involved with, and hopefully to kind of clear things up. So in regards to something interesting, at least that I've been looking into, I recently attended a training, especially my first couple of weeks back from FemLaw. So I attended a training that was specifically on strangulation. I know it's kind of a dark topic, especially whenever talking about, but it's kind of a part of my job. And one of the things I thought was very interesting, just as far as it affects all people, whether it's kind of domestic violence and all people's families all across the nation, including even our own city. And it's pretty prevalent as far as in my line of work, just as far as the type of people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And oftentimes I found myself with people that are kind of either lost or scared in a kind of power and control dynamic of a relationship that often leaves them feeling alone, either neglected or kind of out of bounds with everything else is going on with society. And so I kind of want to share at least that particular website with you. I put it, let's see if I can share it with everybody. So, it's a Strangulation Training Institute. It's basically put on by the Department of Justice, and I had the opportunity here in Oregon. They came and represented kind of in Clackamas County, and so I think we had half of the counties in Oregon represented. And one of the main goals for this particular institute is kind of looking into strangulation and kind of the policies and laws and everything surrounding that, especially here in the United States. And so here in the state of Oregon, if you didn't know, especially in domestic partnerships and things like that, it is a felony to either have some type of strangulation or anything like that that's succumbed to your partners or anything like that, which is a good thing, just because often you can get the partner, the victim in this situation, or survivor, as I often like to refer to them, the help that they need, and then even the perpetrator, the help that they need, because oftentimes they were either raised in a household that they were either learned these particular types of habits and things like that. And so it's just kind of my passion. I'm very passionate about these types of cases. And if you guys are at all interested in at least learning more about it, or if you know anybody in a particular type of situation, or think that they might be involved in something, whether domestic violence or anything, sometimes it's difficult to approach that said person or kind of have a better understanding of what they're going through. So hopefully this can kind of shed light into that. As far as that goes, yeah, like I said before, at the police department, things are kind of getting back into the swing of things. I think with, I mean, obviously COVID's always going to be constantly ongoing, but with the mask mandate and things like that, with that being kind of no longer in effect, at least in certain aspects of at least of our lives, a lot of people are kind of finding themselves getting back to normal. So that's kind of starting to an uptick in kind of some of our calls for service, as far as there's more people out and about, more people aren't afraid to kind of be out and about as they once were. So, but yeah, any questions from any of you guys as far as?
I don't see any raised hands. Oh, Jim. Yeah.
Have you seen, I guess, any particular uptick in like people I guess, the thing going on where people try to siphon gas or, that sort of thing. Is there anything you've seen in Beaverton that we should be aware of?
Yeah, no, at least, yeah, I see why you're asking that question, especially with gas prices and everything that they are the way they are. I have not seen that as of yet. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe something like that took place. But I mean, typically whenever we see an uptick in something like that, people will either get gas, but they'll cut corners elsewhere and commit either theft or something like that to make ends meet in certain other aspects of their lives. Yeah, other than that, I mean, some of the bigger things, a lot of things, COVID kind of prevented a lot of people from coming to the police department or schools or kind of reaching out for help and a lot of resources and things like that because people felt clammed inside their own homes. And so now that kind of people are more out about, people's kids are back in schools. Some people are going back to work either full time if they're not working remotely anymore. So there's more opportunity for kind of certain things to come up as far as if things occurred in their own household or if they're more aware of certain things that are kind of going on. So oftentimes that's just kind of typical with anything, but we're seeing more of an uptick in some cases like that. So.
Jim, one thing that I have seen, and Paul as well, are stories about not the old fashioned way of siphoning gas, like with a tube or whatever. It's like drilling holes into the tank. And I guess I saw a couple of instances of that. I don't know if that's Beaverton or if that was more of a Portland, but.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly heard of that. I haven't seen anything like that, at least so far, at least knock on wood or anything like that here kind of in the Beaverton area. I mean,
Good.
I can't say that's never going to happen just because there are people that are desperate or wanting to make an extra buck or two. So, but yeah.
Any other questions? I see no hands, or I see nothing in the chat. It's good to have you back. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care and feel free to stick around if you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right. So next on the agenda, Mark Hokkanen from THPRD, Tualatin Hills Parks and Rec District. I see you are here.
Yes, I am in the middle of a bathroom remodel, so I might have to step out early to finish some tile work, but Park District is getting back to normal. Hopefully, like everything else, the mask mandate being lifted has obviously helped with the number of items. This spring activities started this week after spring break. So if you hadn't had an opportunity to sign up for spring activities, you can go online and look at the activity guide. For those parents that need to also plan this weekend, April 2nd, summer registration starts beginning. So that way you can start signing up for those summer camps as well. Because we are in the process of having summer activities expand, we are also looking for employees. So if you know of anybody high school age or above, we do have a lot of opportunities to work with youth and adults. And I will actually put that website, if I did this correctly. Hopefully everybody sees the website so they can find things. This last winter, early spring, the 2002 planting season, our staff and quite a bit of volunteers have installed hundreds of native trees and shrubs in various natural areas across the district, as well as cleaning up a lot of our parks and trails. The Beaverton NAC and the Highland NAC ended up actually going out to Schiffler Park. There's about 43 volunteers that ended up working in February on a weekend and installed about 20 large trees within the landscaped areas. Planning work is underway right now where we're designing and permitting a new fenced dog run for Ridgewood Park, and that construction will happen this summer. In cooperation with the Tualatin Valley Fire District, our staff completed a set of wildfire reduction guides with them related to our Park District natural areas. Since the last few summers, we've been seeing a increase in potential wildfires across the state. We wanted to be prepared in case we had anything within our particular area. Last month, our board of directors approved the final concept plan for that new multi-purpose sport court at Mountain View Champions Park. It was during the fall of last year, I think I brought to you that we engaged the public in trying to get an idea what type of sport court markings we should put down on the courts. And they have basically decided that we're going to do futsal and pickleball. So we're currently working through the various permitting processes with our local agencies, and they plan to construct during, I guess it's the 2023 season. So it's about a year out. The Park District's also partnering with the City of Beaverton to create a downtown parks and open space framework plan. And this will hopefully bring in some new parks, open spaces, plazas, trails, and some stormwater management to the downtown area. There is a website, copy. See if I can post this as well, that the city's actually hosting the website where you can go in and look at the implementation plan, and they're seeking input for the various ideas that, there we go. So we can try to reflect the community's, say, aspirations, priorities, ensuring that we have a welcoming and inclusive space with that particular plan. So they are seeking input. And then lastly, the Park District this winter started partnering with the Beaverton School District Sports Medicine Program. And they are providing fitness screening to the various district patrons. The students in the program work with staff to get practicum experience while they provide functional movement screening and senior fitness assessments to the patrons. And this is a new partnership that we plan to continue hopefully in the future with school districts, health schools or health services school. So basically that's it that I have. If there's any questions.
That is a lot that you've been up to.
Yeah, well, we've been kind of shut down for a while, so.
Well, you hit the ground running, I'll tell you, that's wonderful. And I do have a question about, you mentioned some plantings of natives. I live on a wetland that is actually maintained by THPRD in the Sexton Mountain area called Beacon Hill. And it's part of the Beaverton Johnson Creek tributary into eventually Tualatin. But we had partnered many, many years ago with Portland State, where they planted indigenous riparian vegetation as well as basking logs and snags. Is there a way in which to get on your list of projects?
Well, as far as, well, they're twofold, I guess. As far as a volunteer project, that would be through our volunteer services, and they have specific projects that they're looking for. If you're talking about that particular wetland and wanting to enhance it, that would be something that we'd have to send you to our natural resource department. And it may be that it might be on a list of some upcoming projects, or it may be a situation where it is currently at a state in which they are not, there's no enhancements needed, I guess would be the proper way to say it. So it'd be something that, might have to be a few years out.
Okay, and we can definitely talk online. I just didn't know what the proper procedure was. I know with the heat dome that we had, some of the, like the indigenous ponderosa pines that are there, one of them took a pretty significant hit, and it's a larger tree, but so anyway, we can talk later about that, but you've given me some direction.
Yeah, I can send you off to a couple people.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for your report. And thanks for coming. And please do stick around if you can, because we do have presentation coming up about, and it's really exciting, the Year of Trees presentation, which will be coming.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Okay, next up, I am actually going to punt. I was going to do a recap of BCCI, which is the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement report, some of which I think that Franziska will cover, so I don't want to be repetitive. I will say that we had a Sarah Phipps, who is a senior planner from the Community Development Department in the city, talked about Cooper Mountain and a community plan. So that was, and these meetings are recorded and made available to people. But other than that, we talked about our subcommittee work. And I think that, Franziska, if you don't cover it in yours, then I will come back to it as far as some of the events coming up. So with that said, I will go on to Franziska, who is going to give the city update. Welcome.
So I'm stepping in for Miles tonight. So give me just a moment here to get the city update. So a couple of things are going to, because we're literally on the last day of March, it's not going to be quite as news, but the Patricia Research Center for the Arts has opened and has an exciting spring season. If you haven't checked it out yet, the new Performing Arts Center located in downtown Beaverton is featuring special performances with many shows from regional visiting presenters from across the metro area. Nestled, so just more information about it if you don't know about it, it's nestled near the round between Southwest Cedar Hills Boulevard and Southwest Hall Boulevard, and it features a 550-seat theater, art gallery, meeting space, outdoor plaza, and adjacent parking structure. And you can visit www.thereser.org for a full listing of upcoming events, safety protocols, and more. And one of those upcoming events, which this isn't actually part of the city update, but I'll put a plug in for it right now since I'm talking about the Reser. If you want a good excuse to come check out the Reser for free, come to the Spring Voters Forum on April 28th, Thursday, April 28th from 6:30 to 8:30. We're featuring all of the candidates that are running for city council on the May 17th ballot, as well as an informational presentation about the Beaverton school bond measure. So you can get your free tickets online, reserve your free tickets online. There are COVID protocols that the Reser has in place since it's a private event venue. So those are subject to their discretion. So be sure to check the website for what those are at that time. Currently, that requires either being fully vaccinated or a negative COVID-19 test. So anyway, good excuse to come check out the Reser, also a really great opportunity to come meet your candidates. So next on the city update, in case you didn't already know, the city has been offering expanded in-person services across all city facilities while continuing virtual services for community members, and that was as of March 1st. So we've been operating in an expanded way for the last month. So while many city services were already being offered in person, other services have been added and may look different than previously offered, such as by appointment. Virtual services that have proven effective are likely to continue as far as they meet the city's service model and public needs. The changes are happening as the latest wave of the pandemic subsides, with intentional efforts to improve the ways residents and community members access city programs and resources. And of course, the city remains committed to health and safety during this time. Visitors and staff are encouraged to continue practicing all public health guidelines. And you can learn more about city services, hours, and news at beavertonoregon.gov. And also, in case you didn't know, the city council meeting schedule has changed as of March 1st. So regular city council meetings will occur on the first and third Tuesday of each month, with the fourth Tuesday of each month being held for the Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency Borough meetings. While subject to change, it is anticipated that the first meeting of each month will occur in person in council chambers. Remote participation will still be offered, including for visitor comments from the public. City Council will no longer meet on the second or fourth Tuesday of the month unless a special council meeting is required. An upcoming exception will occur when the City Council meets May 10th in observance of Eid al-Fitr and due to the primary election already scheduled budget meetings happening in May. And I already talked about State of the City, or the mayor, I should say, already talked about State of the City, and I put the link in the chat. So if you haven't had the chance to check that out, it's available to watch the recording of that. And I'll go ahead and put the other links that I mentioned in the chat. So with that, are there any questions that anybody has for me, either on anything that I mentioned or anything else city related that I might be able to offer an answer for?
I don't see anything, any hands raised. Thank you for putting the information about the RESER and the voters forum, which I will, again, that was going to be part of my BCCI report. I knew you were going to cover that, so didn't want to be redundant, except to say, please, please, please do consider coming. It is, like Franziska said, a fantastic way to go and see the inside of a beautiful gem of the RESER Center. It is just magnificent. And for those who cannot, it will be replayed on TVC TV. So, you know, a few days out after the actual event, you will be able to get access to that. Okay, Franziska, thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Okay, now with that, the Year of Trees presentation, John Duggar is here representing Central Beaverton NAC, and I am absolutely thrilled about this. This is a personal thing of mine that I am thrilled to see, and you're making the rounds now, NAC by NAC, to give this presentation around the city. So I'm just going to let you describe the program, and welcome.
Cool, thank you. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. I don't give enough, or I don't get enough opportunity to share my screen working virtually every day, so I thought I'd do it in the evening too. Can you guys see that? Give me a thumbs up, maybe. Someone. Yes. Okay, you can. Okay, cool. Well, before we get started, kind of want to just level set a little bit. Most of the time when we think of the city and it's the interaction or the intersections with trees, it's largely in the development code, right? Like when you build a big apartment building, the city pretty much says, okay, if you chop down these trees, you have to replace them. And there's a few other lines of policy around the street tree program, but essentially everything we do is about kind of maintaining what we have. It's not actually about growing the tree canopy. And so that's sort of the mindset here is let's change it. Let's stop playing defense for a little bit. And you know, let's kind of go on offense here, particularly in light of climate change and all these things going. So at Central NAC, for those of you who don't know, we actually have a few different subcommittees. One of them is sustainability. Rachel Phillip on the meeting here tonight is also another member. We have a few others, and we've been talking about trees for a while. You heard the Mark from the Parks District. We just had a tree planting event. We partner with Highland a lot, the Highland NAC, to do tree planting events. So this is kind of all of that I just mentioned. This is kind of up leveling that. So Year of Trees. Well, let me see if I can get this thing to move forward. There. So what is a Year of Trees? Well, essentially, it is this idea where we would publicly plant or set a goal to plant a bunch of trees. In this case, it's going to be thousands of trees, right? We would plant them in public places. So on parks, which we have probably the most experience doing, schools, street trees. We would plan some opportunities to give away trees to residents for their yards. We could get some grants to subsidize those if people need subsidy, and basically connect through the neighborhoods, a bunch of different events around this year of trees, right? So what trees are we planting? Well, there's a lack of native trees going in a lot of areas, right? We plant ornamentals, things that are pretty, right? And that doesn't do our bees, and that doesn't do our native birds and all that a lot of good. But there's also this standard that we've worked with the city on called the right tree in the right place. And you've seen a lot of natives planted near sidewalks, right? And what happens? They lift up the sidewalk. So that's maybe the wrong tree in that place, right? So there's this guidelines on the right tree in the right place. So it's not just natives, it's natives in the particular spot for them. Sometimes it's like areas around where they grow, right? Like it's, if it's a particularly shady area, some tree natives thrive better in the shade. So we would target that, right? And then there's some resources around that. Friends of Trees will help with that. OSU Extension, Department of Forestry, they can kind of help us plant that. And that's important because what we don't want to do is plant thousands of trees and then have them die, within a few months or within the same year. We don't, we want to keep building. The ultimate goal is to build the canopy in the city. And it's better if we don't have to replace it over and over. So we are also looking at, through the year of trees, some potential partnerships. Now, you heard me mention schools, the city, THPRD, the Parks Board. We'd love to partner with Friends of Trees. We're already working with them on expanding their neighborhood program out to Beaverton. So that's going to happen regardless. OSU, obviously NACs everywhere. Sunrise, Beaverton's approached us. Thousand Friends of Oregon. You see all the groups in front of you. We're kind of open-minded too, that we might not have the most comprehensive list here. We want this to ultimately be owned by the community. So hopefully there's a bunch of businesses that will want to participate, maybe even allow trees to be planted on their property, sponsor things, have events at their businesses, same with neighbors and neighborhoods and things like that. So a lot of potential in this, not only just to create urban canopy, but to create community. And that's kind of the other big benefit of this, right? So why is this the right focus? Well, if you look at all of our public statements and by ours, I mean the city of Beaverton's plans, right? Over and over in our climate action plan, in our development code, we talk about the importance of trees. We talk about, Beaverton has those Arbor City signs everywhere, right? We can actually, and this pops up in our neighborhoods too. We talk about it a lot. There's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of connect the science, the nerdy stuff, like people like me like. We know trees have a disproportionately good effect on mitigating climate. Last year when it was 117 in central Beaverton, trees provide obviously shade. They provide places for native birds to rest, to nest, that sort of thing. Our hope is that in addition to being, in addition to being the right thing to do for the environment, it's also the right thing to do for the community. And it perhaps would even become, a version of this would perhaps even become an annual event, and something that we could even export, right, to other cities, because they see us doing it. They see our urban canopy growing. Most cities want this to happen. They just don't have the energy in the neighborhoods to accomplish it, right? This is also aligned with our community vision. If you look at the latest Beaverton community vision, the themes of it, the targets, the three big ones that we determined that this sticks out with were building community, mobility, and livability. I won't read the bullets, but you can imagine this is going to kind of accomplish probably a lot more than this too, right? If we're able to plant 10,000 trees starting in 2023, which is what we're envisioning, that this would actually impact a lot of these things, plus a lot of other things in the vision, right? In our sustainability plans, that sort of thing. As I mentioned, it is aligned with our climate action plan that the city council passed, particularly 69 and 70 on the action items, which were street tree strategy to increase water retention. Trees naturally filter water. mitigate heat. Again, that 117, 112, it was, multiple days in a row last year. The backyard habitat program, again, this is for pollinators and things like that. It really enhances that. And you see the couple other bullet points around what the power of green spaces do, not only for our environment, but for one thing we didn't put is like mental health, right? Like how nice is it just to go stroll through a park or, sit under a tree, have a lunch, do all those things. So it really does affect quality of life. So one of the things we're thinking about right now are ways particularly to engage the community with the project, particularly around education on outreach. It seems pretty obvious just to plant a tree, but there are some wrong ways to do it. And again, we don't want to have our trees die over and over. So we were thinking about creating some educational resources on, when to plant and how to plant. It's an important skill and it's really easy to pick up. Community updates, being very transparent about our goal, sharing that with the community, and marketing and talking about it a lot. Talked about training, volunteer groups, any number of group events that would be happening through the neighborhoods, largely through various aligned groups. We talk about again, subsidizing for backyard trees, things like that, or just making them available, right? Like there's so many city events that we have throughout the year. We could just have stands set up, right? And if you commit to planting the tree in your yard, you get a free one or you get a subsidized one, right? And you just basically, we were thinking as we do this, we kind of track where the trees are going so that we can add it to the database, right? And then we give out t-shirts, stickers, that sort of thing, kind of, year of 2023, the year of trees in Beaverton, Oregon, kind of do our swag on that. One thing that we've been really focused on is like, okay, we do all this stuff. How do we measure success in the year of tree? What does success look like for a successful year of trees? Well, we were thinking, we would count the number of volunteers that have planted and that are working on planting and maintaining the trees. That's a pretty cool metric to see if we had hundreds of people or even perhaps even thousands of people throughout the city engaged in this the year of trees, where the trees were planted, right? Right now you can kind of look at Google Maps on the satellite view and see areas of the city that are lacking in canopy. So the question becomes, can we look at like maybe a satellite view in a few years and see the difference? Maybe we do before and afters to see, right? And then we were thinking for your backyard trees and things like that, if we subsidize it, we just ask that you go on to maybe a simple website and you input your address or maybe upload a picture, something pretty simple to show that it was done. And then we can kind of categorize that in our database. Yeah, and then sort of removing the barriers for our residents of Beaverton that maybe have the space, but maybe they don't have the money or the ability to plant. We connect them with volunteers or resources so that this isn't just, for the able-bodied people or resource people. Like this becomes a truly community-wide event, accessible to everyone. So what are we asking from Sexton Mountain? Not a whole lot right now. Number one, I can tell you right now, Central NAC, Hilo NAC, and I think there's one other, I can't remember which one. I'm certain that there's one other NAC.
Neighbor Southwest.
Neighbor Southwest, thank you, Sharon. That has seen this presentation, so you guys are number 4. What we're trying to do is we are on the hook next month for the Climate Action Task Force. We're going to be presenting them this idea to them, as well as BCCI. And I don't know if BCCI is next month or it might be the month after. But essentially, after that happens, assuming we get their support, we're going to take this to City Council and begin planning this for January, to kick off in January, hopefully in January of 2023. So that would give us maybe a 6 to 7 month runway. What we would like from Sexton Mountain, if you guys are willing, is just to let us know, number one, your feedback if this sounds like something you would be interested in. If you know, if you think it'd be cool for the city, if there's other things we should be thinking about. Also, we've asked for resolutions of support from each NAC that we've gone to. That's just a simple, like, do you like the idea? If so, vote on it and let us know. And we just add your name to the list of potential supporters as we take this to the Climate Action Task Force and to the BCCI. It just sort of gives it more credibility if more neighborhoods are signed on to it, is interested, and I think it's a good idea. And then throughout the year, you may have groups in your neighborhood. You know, once we kick off in 2023, you may have groups in your neighborhood that want to partner with you to do a tree planting event in a park or a school or something like that. And so we would ask that you consider supporting them, or lead one yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, we can show you how to do that. We've done a bunch in Central and Highland, and just be an active partner. Yeah, I think that's about it. So I'll open now for questions, comments, feedback, anything you guys have. Throw it at me. And I think is Rachel still on the call? She is. So she's smarter than me, so she can answer questions better too.
Great presentation. Really appreciate it. And you do have Jim has a hand up here.
Cool.
Good to meet you, John. Just you were talking about planting trees not in a defensive posture, but in our neighborhood, this was probably as many that there are trees that are aging out, and in ours specifically, I'd say like 30-year-old trees they're at the end of the line. So how does that fit into something where trees have to come down and everybody is supportive of putting in new trees? We would like, and you have to be involved with the city to do this. I guess some vote alone, but you run into some resistance. We'd like to support from the city, but to do it the right way. But it's that sort of thing, which is, I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of neighborhoods where trees are just, at the end of the line. And, that's being, going on offense to bring in the new trees and move forward.
Yeah, no, I think, and we haven't talked a whole lot about that, but I think in general, we all live in the city. We have families in the city. Once trees reach the end of life or where they're becoming unstable or unsafe, the last thing you want, we want to replace that, right? Like we want to make sure that we're doing right by our people first and foremost. And that's ultimately that's what we're doing, right? Like by doing this is like kind of trying to future-proof the city a little bit. So we're not going to be sticklers about, like if a property owner wants a tree to replace something, and that's in their best judgment, then you'll find a good partner. You'll find us a willing partner for that, because at the end of the day, like we just want trees, right? And if the reality is, if it's a dead tree and you don't replace it, that's even worse, right? Or it's bad, right? So we absolutely would want to replace and partner with anyone. I know there's some commercial areas too that I've been thinking about and talking to a couple folks. That's a little more complicated because I don't want to subsidize trees for commercial areas, but we there's a lot of land that we can use and potentially. So we got to figure out a balance there too.
Well, what would be the starting point? And let's say the case I was talking about.
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat that?
What would be okay? Because these are things we need to address now, because it's not going to get any better. What would be the starting point to get the ball rolling so that we're not playing from behind?
Well, I think there's going to be a number of different initiatives, but I think it starts with this. I think it starts with the Year of Tree and getting it in front of the city council and getting it approved. Because what that will do is it will open up a whole lot of funding opportunities that will kind of give the event or the year-long bunch of events credibility and give us the potential for matching grants and things like that. So we can start like planning our subsidization efforts, planning I can tell you Highland and Central already have a few events planned and ready to go, right? The moment we get it going. And the other thing Sharon and I have actually talked about on it as separate, like is and I talked with Kate Arnold, former counselor, about it, is is there's a lot of interesting synergies that can come out of this, right? Like Central and Highland both do a lot of tree plantings. We do a lot of events in general, right? Some other NACs don't. They're smaller, they have less resources. What if we were able to templatize some of this stuff, right? To make it really easy for smaller NACs to get their neighbors involved in stuff, right? Because it has the added benefit of not only planting trees, but then you have, just like Central and Highland, you have 20 neighbors showing up to your NAC on a regular basis, right? Because they've shown up at events and you've connected with coffee and all these various things. And we can templatize and show that. And I think this is another opportunity for us to not only actually our central goal of planting more trees, but we want to, at the end of the day, we also want a really healthy neighborhood program. And part of that is like sharing resources and sharing experience and all of these templates. And I know Sharon's worked a lot on that already, but it's like, you know, we have a lot of experience in the neighborhood program in various neighborhoods and just kind of coordinating all that, bringing it together in like a resource area. So that's another side benefit. I got a little sidetracked there, but I think that's a really important aspect of it too, right? Because we're not just investing in trees, we're investing in the neighborhood program too.
I do want to give credit to Kenneth Etheridge, who actually pretty much laid out the template that I forwarded on. We all kind of added to it, but she really got the ball rolling on that one. So kudos to her, because that is something that can be used in every single one of our 11 NACs. And I'd be happy to share that with anybody, as I think I did with you, John.
Cool. Any other questions or comments?
Rachel, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we've already, like, you know, I helped work on the February planting that happened at Schiffler Park. And like, one of the cool things is like, you know, Reggie Frumkin from Highland is like a tree guru, right? And like just getting exposure to his knowledge and now I know a little bit more about planting trees, and it just is a really cool way to spread that knowledge and get more people to become experts at it, really. So it's not just, you know, in 5 years, it's not just Reggie who knows all this stuff. It's a lot of us who can lead these efforts.
That's a great point, Rachel.
And it's a fabulous way of, oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
You know, I was gonna say the other kind of thing I think is really important is, and I can only speak personally on this, but like every time I see a report on climate change, it's always worse and it gets depressing. And I feel like the best way to combat this is direct action in our neighborhoods. Like that's how we, like I can't solve the world's problem, but I can dang sure bet, you know, I can dang sure make a difference here in Beaverton and in my neighborhood, in my community with our people, right? And like, I know that it feels overwhelming sometimes when you think about all the models and how hot it is and fire season and all this. And it's like, well, maybe we can't solve that, but if everybody did the part in their neighborhood, then all over the world, then we make some progress, and it has to start somewhere. So, you know, I think this is a really good opportunity for Beaverton to lead in our neighborhoods, people powered, like real people doing real things, and you know, be an example, right, to other people. And I think it's really, really important for us. It also gives people hope. I think that's a really, really important part when we talk about climate change. It can't be awful all the time. We have to give people hope. And I think this is one exciting way through a year of events that we can do that and directly connect climate change with direct action that neighbors are able to do.
So John, you have the full board, the whole Sexton Mountain board here tonight. I know when Neighbor Southwest presentation was done, I believe that when Kevin was there, the board of two did kind of a high five as their signal of resolution. I'll try and make it a little tiny bit more formal and ask our board tonight if there is a motion to approve a resolution to support the Year of Trees project.
I'll second it.
Any discussion All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Signify.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Well, no, I know there aren't because I saw everybody, you had a unanimous support for a resolution from Sexton Mountain for the Year of Trees project. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm looking forward to seeing the progress that's made, the projects that come out of it, the kind of the getting down the silos that exist between NACs, and this will be a fantastic way of having people working together.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Sexton Mountain. Let this be the first step in our kind of relationship. Central and Highland will both be very active as supporters as you go through this. So like if you have a group come up to you as we go through this process and they're interested and you're not sure, reach out to us. We're 100% behind this effort, but we don't want to leave you guys out on a limb. So we'll bring you along the journey. We'll update you periodically as we go through the Climate Action Task Force and BCCI. Sharon will certainly on BCCI, we'll keep you updated. But as we go to the City Council, again, we'll keep you up on the journey. And thank you again for your time tonight. I really appreciate talking to you guys about this. And yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Rachel. Congratulations, Rachel.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Okay, Franziska, are you able to promote Scott from into the panelist section? Because he is next up about the Sexton Mountain Elementary School 5K. I'd like to introduce Scott. He had been our treasurer at Sexton Mountain NAC, and we're grateful to see you again and promoting a project or a run that had been in existence before and trying to rally support for it. So take it away, Scott.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thanks, Sharon. And so to that point, the Sexton Mountain Elementary joint program between the Sexton Mountain NAC and Sexton Mountain PTC started in 2014. It was an annual event, a 5K and a fun run through the Sexton Mountain neighborhood up through 2019. And then of course it took a hiatus in 2020 and 2021. So we're bringing it back this year. Historically, it's had 200 to 250 participants to come out and run the race. We get a professional timer to come, provide everybody with timed racing bibs. They have a sound system so that there's music and an MC to get everybody having a fun time in the starting area. We get local small businesses to donate to raffles so that the kids, after they finish, have a chance to win some athletic equipment, gift cards, things of that nature. We get together food and beverage, Gatorade similar, so that there's some refreshments for after the race. And basically all that's left then is to hope for sun on the first Saturday of June is when we have traditionally held it. So that's kind of the quick summary. It's a large volunteer turnout that we rely on to run it. We have volunteers both around the course to direct the participants, at the sign-up booth, running the tables for the refreshments. So big community involvement, probably about 300 people total will be there between the volunteers and the participants. And historically, we've asked for a matching grant to help fund that professional timer and some of the prizes for the kids and the refreshments. So that's what I'm here for today, is to answer any questions about the event and to request that the NAC consider a matching grant to help fund with the Sexton Mountain PTC.
Any questions about this, comments? Because this would require board's input for both a motion for support. I do have one question, and that is the actual matching grant is something that you will write yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'll write it. I wrote it the last time we had it in 2019, and so I'm happy to write it again for this time around.
Okay. And do you do you remember how much it was?
So last time it was 3,000. I do have a budget that's in that ballpark this year as well. We haven't finalized the exact amounts that we'll need for things like the refreshments and the bibs I'm still waiting on, things like that. But the timer is the main piece, and that's finalized in terms of price. And so it'll be in the ballpark of 3,000 to put on the event. And so the matching grant nicely covers the vast majority of the cost.
So do I hear a motion from the board regarding this request?
Motion to approve.
Well, you want to frame the motion because I want to make it clear that the motion would be to support the Sexton Mountain Elementary 5K, which is also called Run with the Eagle.
Yes, the Run with the Eagle.
And that
which the eagle is the mascot of Sexton.
right.
Elementary.
I actually did a stained glass eagle for the school.
Oh, awesome.
Hanging in the teacher's room. Anyway, to the point of being clear about the motion, that it is to support the fun run for $3,000 matching grant. I just want to be very specific about that, or do we want to amend that? So Jim, to your motion.
Well, what would you want to do to amend it?
It would just clarify the amount of what the matching grant would be.
Okay, should we table that for now or go forward and vote on it? I mean, I'll make a motion, but this came up, you know.
Right. I mean, Scott made it sound as though if we were clear at $3,000, that would be the amount that's being voted upon.
Okay,
Franziska,
yeah,
do you?
yeah, I'll move to make a motion to support the $3,000 5K run for Sexton Mountain.
Okay, do I hear a second?
A second.
Bonnie seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous right there.
All right. Well,
Motion carries.
thank you.
It's exciting to have this back in the Sexton Mountain NAC and moving forward with something just so positive out in the community. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys, because it is the hits on the Facebook page looking for registration have been shooting up lately, and it's just exciting to see people getting back
That's wonderful.
back into the world. So,
That's wonderful. Okay, Scott, thank you. Stick around if you want. We'd like to induct you back into the board. I should have made that part of the motion. Just kidding. Okay.
Bill,
So, Scott, thank you so much.
thank you very
Okay.
much. It's a pleasure being here.
A pleasure to have you. I am going to switch some things around and have the visitors' comments, because we've had two people reach out to me, and that would be Brian Decker had reached out and Kevin Barton as well. And so I want to start with Brian, as he was the first one to reach out. And then if you don't mind, that's 5 minutes. The visitor's comment is limited to 5 minutes each. And we will start with you, Brian Decker.
Great, thank you so much. And I suspect that we're both here for the same reason. I am running for district attorney in Washington County, and thank you so much for having me. I wanted to introduce myself. I live just across Murray Boulevard from your NAC, in the Highland NAC. My daughter is in first grade over at Vose. My wife is a professor at Portland State University. My mom lives just down the road in the Vose NAC. And I'm running for district attorney because I believe we need a change. I have been a former federal prosecutor back during the Obama administration, and I have been a public defender for 4 years here in Washington County. The incumbent, my opponent, has promised to continue his course of the status quo in Washington County, and the truth is, gun violence is up. We are not addressing the root causes of crime, and victims aren't getting the support they need. So I am running, and what I stand for is a few things. I want to prioritize prevention. I know what I've seen is that addiction, mental illness, homelessness, and poverty in general are primary drivers of crime. And smart public policy means getting out in front and preventing those, preventing crimes before they occur, and rehabilitating nonviolent offenders away from criminal behavior. I also stand for serving victims. I know that people who have been harmed by crime need to have a voice in our criminal justice system, and too often the current system runs roughshod over them and bullies or coerces them into a certain course of action, or even ignores them instead of supporting them. I stand for ensuring equal justice for all, and I will enforce the highest ethical standards for the Office of District Attorney and address racial discrimination. I stand for promoting democracy and defending our Oregon's voting institutions, including vote by mail and our voter registration laws, against any sort of Trump-inspired attacks on democracy. And I stand for real public safety and accountability. I believe that no one should get special treatment, and no one is above the law, and everyone should be treated with equal human dignity. I have been endorsed by the Washington County Democrats. I have been endorsed by Safety and Justice Oregon, by the Beaverton Education Association, Pro-Choice Oregon. I have been endorsed by the Independent Party of Oregon, Northwest Oregon Labor Council, AFL-CIO. I've been endorsed by our mayor, Lacey Beaty, who we heard from earlier during this NAC, as well as city councilors and school board members from Hillsborough to Forest Grove to Sherwood to Tigard and Tualatin, all across the county. This is a very important election. It is for the most important position in our local criminal justice system, and a position that has a tremendous impact on vulnerable communities and on problems that we see every day in our community. One that I would like to see be a real collaborative partner in making sure that we address some of these ongoing problems that we've seen for years. Oh, and I just saw the 1 minute sign. I would yield the balance of my time, or I would ask, obviously, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. My website is deckerforda.com. Please come check it out, and get involved if you would like to. We have a canvassing event in Beaverton coming up this weekend. You're all invited. And if you're not out with us knocking on doors, you might get your door knocked on because of that event. So hope to see you all soon, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the timekeeper in me. I've been timekeeper for the Voters Forum with my partner, Terry Lawler, for years now. And so this is my tacky sign. I don't have the official ones from the city. So
thank you so much. At first it was like, getting the Zoom blurring into the background effect, and then I was able to see it. So thank you.
Sorry about that. So thank you so much. And I am going to do the same 5 minutes for Kevin Barton. Welcome.
Hi, Sharon, and thank you, everyone. And good evening, Mr. Decker. Good to see you again. Thank you for having me. So I am the current district attorney in Washington County, and I'm running for re-election for DA. I've I've been the DA for the past 4 years now. I was first elected in 2018. I've practiced law here in Oregon for just about 20 years and have grown up in this area, high school in Washington County. I live in Sherwood and I'm raising my kids. They're in middle school and elementary school down in Sherwood. And the reason I'm running for re-election is the very same reason I ran 4 years ago for DA, and that is quite simply to keep Washington County safe. My principles that I stand for are a combination of things. It's prosecuting criminals, it's protecting crime victims and protecting the public, and it's pursuing responsible reforms. I believe that as a DA, we can accomplish all three of those things together. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done in my office to do those things. And I think anyone who's watching what's happening in the news, not just across the nation, but in our region, realizes that it's not that way everywhere. And you just have to look next door into Portland and see where a public safety system has not worked to feel really blessed to be living in the safe community that we're living in here. So in Washington County, you might be interested in knowing, we are actually the safest large county in Oregon. If you look at the actual stats, the crime data, our combined crime rate is 30% lower than the state average, and it's 50% lower than Multnomah County. But we have some really big challenges, and it's no secret what those are. Rising addiction that's leading into property crime and other crime, mental health issues that we're dealing with, and dwindling resources as we're trying to address some of these issues are three of the really big challenges. In my time as DA in Washington County, in the last 4 years, we've really done some groundbreaking and new things that I'm very proud of. And I'll just kind of give you an idea of what some of those are. So for example, we've established new specialty and treatment courts, one geared for veterans who have mental health and addiction issues, called a Veterans Treatment Court. We've established 2 mental health courts for people with mental health issues, a domestic violence team to address domestic violence issues, a cold case team where we actually got a federal grant to help solve unsolved sexual assault and unsolved homicide cases going back to the 1970s, a hate crimes unit team that actually tries to address hate and bias crime incidents. And one thing that I'm really proud of is working to establish what's called a Family Peace Center, which is an evolution of our Family Justice Center, which is a domestic violence and child abuse a center for children who've been abused and people who are going through domestic violence scenarios. And that's my own personal background is I spent 10 years as a prosecutor, as a child abuse prosecutor, helping out kids who've been through sexual abuse and physical abuse. So that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm just going to finish by telling you about my supporters. So you can't do anything. I think anyone who knows working in government or private sector, you really can't operate on your own. And even though there's only one name on the ballot or on a yard sign, there's a whole bunch of people behind that name. So I'm really proud to have support and endorsements from every single police chief in the county, from the sheriff, Pat Garrett of Washington County, from 10 of our current and former mayors throughout the entire county, from Republicans and Democrats. I'm politically independent. I'm not registered one way or the other. And I have both Republicans and Democrats who are endorsing me, 2 former United States attorneys who've endorsed me. Governor Kulongoski, former governor of Oregon's endorsed me, and then business leaders as well, because public safety has a direct impact on business. I think we know that from seeing again what's happening in Portland. Tim Boyle of Columbia Sportswear has endorsed me. Pat Reeser from Reeser's Foods. My biggest donor is actually Phil Knight, and he gave me $100,000, and my smallest donor is a retired woman who gave me $2. So I'm proud to have support from really all ends of the spectrum. And the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, which is a business chamber of commerce. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you for the time. I hope I'm just under 5 minutes now, and I'll put my website in the comments as well. And if any of you have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out. Thank you for letting me have a few minutes.
You are right at 5 minutes. Thank you both. Wonderful. I do see that we have another person promoted to panelist who is representing the Beaverton School District, and that would be Shellie Bailey-Shah, who I know your name from a different realm.
That's true. That's true.
So you have 5 minutes as well.
Great. I'm going to use the majority of my time to actually show you a video, but first, I'm the Public Communications Officer for the Beaverton School District. So I run the Communications and Community Involvement Department. And tonight, I just want to introduce you to the 2022 proposed bond. As you're probably aware, the school board referred this bond to the ballot in May. You might be asking yourself, like, why now? Clearly, the school district has a lot on its plate as far as coming out of COVID. We just hired a brand new superintendent, but the bond is critically important. We're not only responsible for looking at the here and now in our schools, we also need to be forward thinking 5 years, 10 years down the road. And that's really where the bond comes into play. So Sharon, could I possibly get sharing privileges so I can show a quick video?
I think Franziska, you have that ability.
Hello.
You can share your screen.
All right, here we go.
Fine.
And I think this video does a good job of explaining what is proposed. In May 2022, voters will decide on a new proposed 30-year bond that, if passed, would raise about $723 million. The proposed bond is estimated to initially cost taxpayers approximately $2.34 per $1,000 of assessed value and decline over time. That's an increase of approximately 25 cents per $1,000 of assessed value over the current tax rate. For a homeowner with an average assessed property value of $303,000, that's an increase of about $76 per year. If the bond passes, how would the district prioritize projects? Well, it started in 2019 when the district hired an outside consultant to do a comprehensive facility condition assessment of all BSD properties. The consultant scored schools and district buildings on seismic readiness, age, condition, and the amount of deferred maintenance. Then last February, the district asked you to fill out a survey that further prioritized the needs. That all resulted in a list of proposed projects that fall into 6 main categories. First, modernization at 44 of our 53 schools. Things like office relocations to increase security, classroom improvements, new playgrounds, and synthetic turf fields at some high schools. It also includes 2 school rebuilds, Beaverton High School, which was constructed in 1916, and Raleigh Hills, constructed in 1927. Second, seismic improvements. Take a look at this graph. 13 of our 53 schools currently meet or nearly meet the district's goal for damage control, leaving 40 of our schools that don't meet the district standard for earthquake readiness. If passed, the proposed bond would fund phase 1 of that work, starting with our older middle schools, Cedar Park, Five Oaks, Highland Park, Meadow Park, Mountain View, and Whitford. Other schools would be addressed in future proposed bonds. Third, technology. During the early days of the pandemic, our students used their school-issued devices for remote learning. The replacement cost for these devices is around $27.4 million and would include 2 rounds of Chromebooks for high school and 1 round of Chromebooks and iPads for middle and elementary schools. If the proposed bond does not pass, the district would not fund new one-to-one devices for student use unless general funds were allocated, potentially impacting funding for staffing and other programs. The proposed bond also would cover more than $16 million worth of network and infrastructure upgrades, as well as extra devices and parts. Fourth, if passed, the proposed bond would fund $120 million worth of deferred maintenance at most schools, projects like roof replacements and HVAC upgrades. Fifth, classroom additions at Oak Hills, Sato, and Stoller. And the 6th category, security and other equipment, including security cameras at all schools, card readers at high schools, and new buses. If the proposed bond passes, the district would receive an additional $8 million in state grant money through the Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Program. If the proposed bond doesn't pass, BSD would not receive the grant. For more information about the district's long-range facility plan and seismic study, please visit our bond website. There, you also can see exactly what projects are proposed for individual schools. If the proposed bond does not pass, projects would not go forward and the new tax rate would not be implemented. Still have questions? Feel free to submit them on that same webpage by hovering over the question mark.
You are
Normally I
remarkably.
would take a moment here to walk you through parts of that website, but I know I'm short on time. So
You
I
are
just
right
wanna-
at 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to
Yes.
say at the very bottom, you're going to find other videos, and I would just encourage you on your own time to take a look at those. There's one in particularly interesting one on seismic upgrades, and you'll find them right here. So thank you. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much for that presentation.
Of course.
And I do have one question, and that is, I see that there is one other person who is in the, is she an attendee or a panelist now, Franziska? It's Teresa Payne.
Teresa is an attendee, and I've given her permission to talk if she has something for visitor comment. And
I'm
happy
not
to
sure,
promote
as
you
I hadn't
panelist.
heard anything, or if she was just coming to listen. So Teresa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, did you want your 5 minutes?
I can also promote you to a panelist so that your video displays as well.
Thanks, Franziska.
Thank you for that question. Oh.
We actually doubled the number of our visitors that I was aware of. So this is great. I'm so glad that people are participating and giving us information. So Teresa, are you there?
Here I am.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I was able to sit in and observe the entire meeting.
So
Happy
Teresa,
to be
you
here.
see that I have this tacky, where is it? There. I will give you 5 minutes, but you'll see that if you only have 1 minute left.
Yes, no, I didn't need 5 minutes. I came in because I was called upon, but I will wait until the Beaverton Voters Forum. I want to respect the process and my opponent. They're not here to speak for themselves. So I want to just say hello to everyone. So happy to see your beautiful and handsome faces this evening. I am Teresa Payne. I actually live in the Denny Whitford Raleigh West neighborhood. And I, from time to time, enjoy going and attending neighborhood association committee meetings outside of my own. So hello. I don't want to say any more than that, but you will see my name and my face very soon, I assure you. And so once again, happy to be here and just observing. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yes, and that's just another segue for something that we had touched upon, and that's on Thursday, the 28th of April at the Research Center. We will be hosting all of the council races as well as the Beaverton School District Bond. So keep that in mind, and that you'll see Teresa during that time. So I think that, Jim, are you still on? Well, Bonnie, between you and I, we have a quorum. And so I just want to really very quickly put a motion out there to approve the minutes. And those are from November and January. And I don't know if Jim is still listening in. I know he has seen them. I know he said that they were great. Thank you, Bonnie, so much for doing this. And so I would like to move that we approve both sets of minutes. And if I can get a second. And that would be Bonnie. And the discussion has already pretty much gone around with edits to the minutes. So all those in favor, aye? And that's unanimous. So minutes have been passed. And the treasurer's report, that's Jim, but I don't think that there's really anything to report at this point. And he is not, he's either there or he's somewhere. So with that, is there anything else for the good of the order? I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Oh, Brian, did somebody have a question?
Oh, no, I thought I saw Teresa raise her hand for a moment there.
Teresa, did you have a question?
Good eye, Brian. Yes, I just wanted to raise my virtual hand. Sharon, I can reach out to you offline, but to more officially get on your agenda for a later date to have perhaps 10 minutes.
Okay, now just so that you know, this NAC, Sexton Mountain, now meets every other month. So we will not meet in April, which would precede the actual voters forum normally. We would meet in May. And I don't know if that's going to be something that you're still interested in, knowing the timing.
I still care about Sexton Mountain, and
Absolutely,
being
you
a
are
member of
welcome.
this community, you are as important as any of the other, neighborhoods. And so if you'll have me, yes, I would still like 10 minutes. If nothing
Absolutely.
else, I'm sure you'll love some juicy debriefing to be had. So
So you are welcome at any time. Just reach out and so that we can put you on the agenda, because otherwise, as it happened tonight, any candidates that actually want to be on the agenda, if you reach out, if one reaches out, then you need to reach out to all. They need to all be on the agenda together to be able to participate in that aspect of the agenda. Otherwise, it's in the visitors' comments, which is what we did this evening. So yes, reach out at any time. We'd love to have you. Okay. And with that, if there's no other business, we are adjourned.